So, we all expect AAA games companies to spend 10 years making a game, only for it to be released as a buggy mess that 20 years ago they wouldn't have dreamt of selling in that state. Starfield is one of those games. I can't think of a game that more accurately describes modern game company culture than Starfield. It's a game with so much potential, only to have that squandered on a game that is way less than what players expected at launch. So I wasn't surprised when I saw an article talking about how Starfield has lost 97% of their players. That's right, it's down roughly 97% in players since its all-time peak. When I checked in on the numbers myself using SteamDB, I found that it had roughly a daily peak of 12,490 players, which is surprising because the Skyrim Special Edition had almost 3 times as many players in the last day. To put that in perspective, the Special Edition of Skyrim was released in 2016, 8 years ago, and is only one version of the game. The original version had another 3K daily players on top of that. So why is it that it seems like every major AAA release does so bad? I've been thinking about this a lot recently because I made a few videos on Palworld last week. When you compare Palworld's numbers to Starfield's numbers, they're not even in the same league. How is it that a small indie development team can make a game that outdoes a game like Starfield, which was in development at a major studio for like 8 years? Palworld has a lot of bugs, probably more than Starfield did when it was released, and I do think the buggy release of Starfield at least contributed to its lack of player interest. So why is it that Palworld can get away with bugs when Starfield can't? Well, for one, Palworld launched in an alpha state, so the entire game comes with a warning saying that it might be a bit buggy, while Starfield was touted as a major launch, and with Starfield coming from Bethesda, I think players had higher expectations. But what I really think is the real cause of it is the price. Even with its struggling player count, Starfield's lowest sale price has been $48.99, according to SteamDB, and its normal price is a whopping $70. Meanwhile, Palworld's priced at $30. That's right, even at its lowest price ever, Starfield cost more than Palworld, which I think is indicative of a lot of the AAA gaming market. They're always trying to separate the consumer from as much of his money as possible, whether that's through in-game microtransactions or just by pricing the game too high. They're constantly trying to up the earnings. I mean, I remember when a Game Boy game was like $40. Then one day the price of games suddenly jumped to $60. Now they're aiming for $70, and I've even heard rumors of upcoming games the studios want to price at $100 or more. I think one of the probably unintentional things that really helped Palworld succeed so quickly was the low price. I mean, gamers tend to be impulse buyers. Oh, my friend is playing that game, I should try it out and play with him. Or, oh, I saw gameplay of that on YouTube and it looked so cool, I'm thinking about buying it, are pretty common ways that a gamer decides to buy a game. It's a lot easier to follow through with that impulse if the game is $30, the price of going out to eat for a meal, rather than $70. Really, anything over $50 is where the average American tends to stop and think, is it really going to be worth it for that price? And when the game is a buggy mess like Starfield, oftentimes that answer is going to be no. Then, even when people do buy it, they will be upset because they spent $70 on a buggy mess, so you'll get bad reviews, which makes it even harder for your game to gain players. I think that's mainly what happened to Starfield, combined probably with the hype they generated and somewhat failed to deliver on. What's particularly egregious about it, too, is that Bethesda games tend to have a history of releasing buggy. I mean, Skyrim was a total mess when it launched, but there was a difference between Starfield and Skyrim, and that difference was that Skyrim was so good that people loved it despite the bugs, but Starfield just didn't hit that mark. The best evidence of this is probably Baldur's Gate 3, which released just a month before Starfield, and yet still has a massive player base. Now, Baldur's Gate is a little less expensive, sitting at around $60, but not too much less that it becomes irrelevant. What's mostly important is the state that it launched in. It was pretty much free of major bugs. At the time, there were even game devs that complained that Baldur's Gate launching in such a polished state was unfair and would lead people to have unreasonable expectations of other game devs. But the truth is that gamers are so starved of good games that don't nickel and dime them, that aren't stuffed to the brim with microtransactions, that aren't priced to bankrupt them, and more importantly, are fun, that Baldur's Gate still has over 100,000 people playing it on a random day of the week. Basically, I don't want to lead you to think this is just a Bethesda problem. It's not only happening with Starfield. We've seen a number of big titles fail in the past year. The most recent big flop was the new Suicide Squad game. It's an industry problem. The AAA studios seem to think that they can shove unfinished garbage at us and expect us to buy that slop at $70 a pop. They don't seem to think that gamers just won't play their games. I think that a 97% decline in players should probably be enough to open up some eyes at Bethesda though. So hopefully someday soon, the AAA devs will learn their lesson, but I doubt it. What do you think? think. Can you believe that Starfield has already seen a 97% player count drop? Are you one of them? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching all the way till the end. If you've made it this far, be sure to like and subscribe. It really helps me and the video do better. Have a great day, and God bless you. I've been talking about the AAA games companies not doing so well in my last couple of videos, but imagine my surprise to find out that AAA is outdated now. We are living in the era of the Quadruple A game. That's right, Ubisoft has come out to claim that their upcoming game, Skull and Bones, is a Quadruple A game. What does that mean? Are they moving away from the stuff no one likes in AAA games like microtransactions, live service games, and battle passes? No, actually they're just doubling down and making it worse. What do I mean by that? Well, apparently, their upcoming game, which just had its open beta called Skull and Bones, is going to have all of those things. It's going to be a live service game with microtransactions and a battle pass, but you have to pay $70 for the game before you can use the microtransactions or pay for a battle pass. Now, usually, games that have battle passes and even microtransactions see the most success when the game is free. After all, no one wants to pay for a full-priced game only to be asked for more money a few minutes in. But apparently, Ubisoft thinks that Skull and Bones is so good that you'll want to pay upfront, then keep on paying. Now, any normal person hearing that they're going to be pestered for a battle pass on a game that already costs $70 basically thinks, no way that's true. That would be ridiculous. And when that was brought up to the CEO, he said the most ridiculous thing. The caller asked why Ubisoft was insisting on charging $70 for the game and potentially limiting the size of its player base, suggesting a free-to-play model may better suit the live service mechanics and give it a better chance of building a community. Guillemot, Ubisoft's CEO, replied with an assertion that Skull and Bones deserves to be a full-price game because of its scale. You will see that Skull and Bones is a fully fledged game, he said. It's a very big game, and we feel that people will really see how vast and complete that game is. It's a really full, triple, quadruple A game that will deliver in the long run. Yeah, that's a pretty big thing to say when the reviews from the beta basically call the game perfectly playable but meh and unexciting. And if that's the game journalist reviews, imagine what the actual players think. I looked at some footage of the gameplay, and all I can say is that it looks nice, but to me, it kind of looks like they just put a new coat of paint over the old Pirates of the Caribbean MMO. So, to state it lightly, the Ubisoft CEO is getting a lot of pushback and criticism for saying that this is a Quadruple A game. Some of the top comments on the VGC News Twitter post about this say stuff like, translation, this game is going to bomb, and we are just trying to recoup as much of our losses as possible. You can't call something a Quadruple A game just because you spent an ungodly amount of money rebooting it multiple times because you kept trying to make a shitty live service game that no one wants. Make a promise then. If you have to issue a hotfix or patch within a week of the official release, anyone who purchased it gets a full refund and keeps the game. That's a real Quadruple A game. If it's a Quadruple A game, why does it look like it was made on a PS3 dev kit? All of which summarize the general feeling that the community seems to have towards this game. It's honestly embarrassing that these companies are trying to pull stuff like this on their customers. I mean, I know that Ubisoft is widely considered one of the worst offenders when it comes to making choices that are bad for gamers, but to try and get people to pay $70 for a game that has microtransactions and a battle pass, and to try to pass that off as such a good thing that the game is a Quadruple A game, I'm sorry buddy, but this game doesn't look like it's going to be any better than any of the AAA games that have already failed in the last few months. Meanwhile, Palworld is $30, made by an indie company, and has sold millions of copies. Enshrouded is in the same boat. I'd be willing to bet that either Palworld or Enshrouded will end the year with more sales than Skull and Bones. Not that they deserve to be called Quadruple A either, but man, they're somehow better than most of the AAA games that are coming out, let alone the Quadruple A game. And like, it's not like they could have picked a worse time to launch a game like this too. In general, all of the gamers I know are just about done with microtransactions. No one has the disposable income they had a few years ago. Food's more expensive. Heck, everything's more expensive now. Why would anyone want to spend $70 plus microtransactions on a live service game that they will eventually lose access to when Ubisoft decides that they've lost enough money and shuts the servers down? Because that's a real possibility with live service games. They can just go dark one day with no respite for the people who already purchased it. Once the phone home server is gone, the game's basically gone. On top of that, this is coming just after the massive failure of the new Suicide Squad game, which was a terrible live service game. Basically, live service as a concept is sour to gamers now. People are starting to have had enough with the industry practice of bleeding gamers' wallets dry. It really is an industry problem. And like I've said several times before, I seriously hope that the big AAA, oh wait, excuse me, Quadruple A games companies. Take a look at what has been successful in the last couple of years. Games like Hogwarts Legacy, a single-player story game that outsold every other game last year, or indie games like Palworld, which have a cheap price and no microtransactions and are dominating the scene right now, despite literally coming out of left field. When you look at those examples, the truth becomes clear. Gamers don't want to play slop games, seasoned with microtransactions and battle passes. They don't want to have their games online all the time. What they want is something that won't break their wallets, and that is fun. At the end of the day, it really seems to me that these big game studios have lost all concept of whether or not a game is fun, instead falling into the habit of thinking that how much time and money they smash into a game is what makes it good. In my opinion, there is no game worthy of being called a Quadruple A game this year. Likely not for a long time. I think that title should be left alone, at least until we have more immersive games. Something like VR MMOs that you see in anime all the time. Because using Quadruple A game for this is just insulting to the consumer. What do you guys think? Is Skull and Bones a Quadruple A game? Or is it just AAA slop that's being talked up by a desperate CEO? What do you think a game would have to do to qualify as a Quadruple A game, in your opinion? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. After all, you watched the entire video. Have a great day, and God bless you. So, Cutie Cinderella found herself in some hot water this week regarding a new Twitch channel she set up to rerun her content. And no, I'm not talking about how she got a short ban on Twitch following the rebroadcasting of an Omegle video. I'm talking about the weird way it seemed like she was trying to get extra money from Twitch. Let me explain. Recently, there have been a lot of streamers who are setting up channels that just replay their old videos as a live stream. The biggest and most obvious example of this is PewDiePie. I don't think anyone has a problem with the concept of reusing your old content in order to keep generating money, while at the same time giving your fans somewhere they can go to watch your videos together and hang out in the chat. If anything, it's a good idea because it allows you to keep generating income on old videos that have fallen off. Cutie Cinderella's new channel called Cutie Events is meant to do this rebroadcasting in order to help her fund any future events she puts on, the most obvious being the Streamer Awards. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Exactly. What is wrong though is how she went about promoting it. The initial tweet I saw was, "If you want to help me with the Streamer Awards, please consider opening a tab and helping farm ad rev here. Live until the Streamer Awards," and then a link to the events channel. "I don't have enough sponsors to pay for the show this year, so if you like the show and want it to exist, come hang out." Now, it does sound a little weird to tell her followers to open a tab and help her farm ad rev, right? Like, that seems like she's specifically asking her fans to help her cheat Twitch out of some money by getting her followers to count as a view without actually watching, and let her collect the ad revenue for ads no one is seeing, because that's what I get from it. Now, I'm not going to stand on some massive high hill and say that her doing that is wrong. I don't really care what she does to Twitch, but it does seem a little disrespectful, and if I was Twitch, I'm pretty sure I'd have a big problem with that. In my opinion, and I'm not a lawyer, just a guy who makes YouTube videos, so hey, what do I know, right? That seems to me like it might very well cross the line. Granted, I'm pretty sure that every big Twitch streamer encourages this to some extent, but to just outright tell people to do this, that seems like a massively bad idea, right? Like, if I was an advertiser who paid to advertise on Twitch only to find out that my ads were playing on a stream that's entire viewer base is just extra tabs opened, I don't think I'd be very happy that I paid for that. Now, you might be saying that I'm blowing it out of proportion. After all, what she said in that tweet was just open a tab and help farm ad rev. That doesn't explicitly mean that she's telling the viewers not to watch the stream, right? Yeah, but the original About section of the Twitch channel did. It said this originally: "This channel is used to stream Cutie Cinderella's YouTube videos to help fund events via ad revenue. If you leave the stream open in another tab, it will still count you towards ad runs. But please make sure to only mute the tab and not the stream." Yeah, so in that description, she was in fact telling her viewers that they can mute the tab so that she can still get ad revenue without them watching. I can't be the only one who thinks, one, that's a really bad idea to just explicitly announce in your About section, and two, that it takes a special kind of entitlement to just come out and say what you're doing, when what you're doing is definitely something that isn't going to make Twitch happy, especially considering Twitch just did this whole big live stream thing where the CEO said they are not profitable, and also they had to shut down Twitch in an entire country, South Korea, because Twitch could no longer bear the financial burden of operating in that country. Now, a Twitter user called JSTLK called her out for this practice by saying, "How in the world is this moron openly trying to scam at Twitch with her stream description? She's already rich. What's the possible upside here?" And she replied to him with, "I'm explicitly trying to pay for a massive show that I put on myself. It's for the community, so if the community wants to watch some ads to help pay for it, so be it. Currently, I stand to lose a lot of money on the show, and this is me selling myself and my content to help pay for it. I do agree that that description is aggressive, and I thought muting the tab was a meme, but I'm having the person that made the channel edit that. I hadn't seen it. This is genuinely not hurting anyone. Well, not hurting anyone but the advertisers." Now, I'm not really sure how muting the tab could be considered a meme. meme. Like, I genuinely don't get what she's saying there. So excuse me if there's some deep Twitch lore I'm unaware of. But I think that the problem is when she says, if the community wants to watch some ads to help pay for it, so be it. Because by telling them to open the stream in a new tab and mute that tab, she's not asking them to watch the ads. She's asking them to keep the stream open so ads play and they don't hear the ads, allowing her to get paid and also allowing the advertiser to lose money because the ad was played to someone who has the tab muted and therefore specifically did not listen to the ad that they paid for. This wouldn't be an issue if the viewers did it on their own, but given she was giving instructions to do so in the About section, I'm pretty sure that's a major problem. To be fair, after being called out about the About Me description, she changed it. It now reads, what is this channel? This channel is used to stream Cutie Cinderella's YouTube videos to help fund events via ad revenue. If you have any questions, please refer to Twitch's official help article here. Which seems innocent enough, right? She removed the reference to muting the tab, so all is good, right? Except, well, she did something really underhanded here. You see, I read the line, if you have any questions, please refer to Twitch's official help article here, and thought, what could Twitch have an article on related to this? So I clicked the link on the word here. Well, that link does not take you directly to a Twitch article. I'll tell you that much. Any guesses? It takes you to a Google search result for the search Twitch viewer count muted audio, which has the top highlighted search result as part of a Twitch article talking about how the muted browser tabs still count as a viewer. So like, she removed the instruction to open the stream in a new tab and mute the tab, but added some weird roundabout way to encourage it anyway? Why is no one talking about this? That's like the most passive-aggressive scummy thing I've ever seen a streamer do. And that's saying something because streamers are generally really passive-aggressive. Now, do I really care what she does? No, not really. I just think it's weird. Almost like she feels entitled to gather money from the ether without having to work for it. It's just so gloriously out of touch that I wanted to highlight it. I think this does speak volumes about the entitlement of the top Twitch streamers. Also, to be honest, it's kind of based to just not care enough about your reputation to openly do something like this. I don't know who she knows at Twitch, but she's gotta have some good contacts to be this confident about it. What do you guys think? Is this scummy, or am I blowing it out of proportion? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Please like the video and subscribe. It really helps the video and me do better. Have a great day, and God bless you. So, you might have seen the other day that I made a video about how Starfield has lost most of its players, and in that video, I may have compared it a bit to Palworld. Well, since that video came out, there have been a lot of articles coming out talking about how Palworld has lost 70+% of their players, which sounds really bad, but in reality, I don't think it's nearly as bad as people are making it out to be. We'll also be taking a look at the Palworld community manager's take on this situation, so stay tuned. So what exactly is happening? Well, Palworld came out of nowhere a few weeks ago and became one of the top-selling games of all time on Steam. Palworld genuinely deserved that success in my opinion, as it's a game developed by an indie studio with a small team and managed to be more expansive, more viral, and most importantly, more fun than any AAA game that's come out in the last 10 years. Looking at the numbers from SteamDB, it peaked at over 2.1 million players playing the game at the same time a few weeks ago, right after its release, when the hype was at its highest, but is now sitting at around 300,000 players online at one time and 500,000 players in a 24-hour period. Anyone can do the math on that and see that Palworld has roughly 25% of the daily players that it had at its peak, but I don't think that's really all that bad. When you really take the time to look and think about the game, it has a 94% positive review ratio on Steam, according to SteamDB, which is incredibly high. Compare that to Counter-Strike 2, which has a lower peak player number, but is consistently one of the most played games on Steam, and CS2 only has an 87% positive review ratio. On top of that, you've got to remember that Palworld is a progression-focused game, and that there's really only two types of players. The casual, who only logs in a couple of times a week to play for a short burst, and thus won't contribute too much towards the concurrent player count, and the hardcore grinder, who's already beaten everything there is to beat, and has exhausted the content that's available, and will probably come back when more content arrives. You have to remember that Palworld is an alpha. It's not the completed game. Given that, the fact that it has such a high concurrent player count, even if that count is 75% lower than its peak, is still impressive. I don't think anyone can call it a dead game at all. I mean, especially compared to what Pocket Pair, the developer of Palworld, were expecting from the game. It's like probably done better than their wildest dreams. And we don't have to guess on that because the Pocket Pair community manager posted his thoughts on the declining player count onto Twitter. His name is Bucky, and he said, with Palworld quickly approaching the 1-month mark, it's interesting to look back at my own thoughts for launch. In May of 2023, I was convinced that Palworld could break the 50,000 player mark. Anything above that seemed unattainable though, and I certainly never expected it to reach into the millions. It has taken years to get to this point, and Palworld only really begins from here. Everyone is working hard to fix the issues and prepare new content and pals. Some of you may have had your fun over the last 3 weeks and found yourself putting the game down. That is fine. This emerging Palworld has lost X% of its player base discourse is lazy, but it's probably also a good time to step in and reassure those of you capable of reading past a headline that it is fine permission to take breaks from games. You don't need to feel bad about that. Palworld, like many games before it, isn't in a position to pump out massive amounts of new content on a weekly basis. New content will come, and it's going to be awesome, but these things take a little bit of time. There are so many amazing games out there to play. You don't need to feel guilty about hopping from game to game. If you are still playing Palworld, we love you. If you're no longer playing Palworld, we still love you, and we hope you'll come back for round 2 when you're ready. Play lots of games, try different genres, and frequently flick through indie libraries to find hidden gems, which I think is a genuinely good take. Granted, he literally gets paid to talk about Palworld in a positive light, but he's not wrong. There's only so much content in Palworld, not to mention the late game is kind of grindy. He suggests that a lot of the fall in player count is just basically fatigue, that people are taking a break because they've done what they want to for now, and that he believes that people will return once there's more content, which I agree with pretty much entirely. In the first week or two Palworld came out, I grinded nearly 50 hours of the game, and genuinely enjoyed that entire experience. But even I got a little tired and slowed down a bit since then, just playing a couple of hours here and there every few days when I'm in the mood for it. And that's considering that I'm a really grindy gamer. I literally play old school RuneScape, the most grind heavy game on the market. So I can easily see people who aren't into or don't have time for the grind taking some longer breaks. What's really important to me is that the dev team has been pretty open about how they weren't really expecting this much success and have been expanding to try and live up to people's expectations. There's already roadmaps for updates and a lot of content planned from what I've heard. Palworld is in alpha still. That's usually really early into development. So I think we can expect that by the time the game is in full release, it will have a ridiculous amount more content to explore, which I'm excited for. When the game released, I immediately started playing on a server with some friends. Those friends and I got pretty far into the game, but eventually their interest waned as they went on to other games. And so did I for the most part. I think that when the first major update hits, we'll all get back on and relive the whole experience again. I imagine that's the same for a lot of people, but maybe I'm just rambling. It just feels to me that the drop in player count for Palworld is not really that important. If anything, it should be expected. What do you guys think? Are you still hopeful for Palworld's future? Or are you worried that the hype was too much and now the game is going to stagnate and go under? Let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching all the way till the end. Remember to like and subscribe. After all, you watched the whole video. Have a great day and God bless you. Madam Web is living like a cryptid in my mind right now. It's this new movie, which by the way is apparently absolutely terrible, made by the people who made Morbius, and I'm like 90% sure that they just exist to make films that are classifiable as SCPs. Just a heads up, this video is going to have major spoilers, like all of them, but let's be honest, you didn't click this because you're planning on going to see the movie. Anyway, why do I say this movie is like a cryptid? Well, first I should say that like many cryptids, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, I haven't seen Madam Web. Now you might ask, how can you make a video on it if you haven't seen the movie? Well, I think the fact that I haven't seen it is what's making it better for me. I mean, everyone who has seen the movie has said that it's absolutely terrible, in the same tier as Morbius, if not worse. So I think going to see it is just going to make the whole thing worse for me. But every spoiler I've seen for the movie just doesn't seem real. It's almost like they fed some basic information about the characters into an AI and had it spit out what it thought a Madam Web movie would look like. Every new spoiler I see just makes it sound worse. Like for instance, it's a Spider-Man movie where they aren't allowed to have Spider-Man. I've seen that they have his parents in the movie and allude to his birth, but they just don't mention the guy at all. Now, I'm not like a total Spider-Man nerd, but I remember in the cartoon I watched as a kid that Madam Web was this like old lady that appeared to Spider-Man in like his dreams or visions or something to do with his spidey sense. What I don't remember is anything about a race of mystical spider people helping to save the life of Madam Web when she was just a baby. Yeah, that's right. This movie doesn't have Spider-Man in it, but it does have Spider-Men. Like, let me read you this synopsis from Screen Rant. After Constance Webb is shot by Ezekiel in the Amazon, Peruvian spider people intervene to save her. They take Constance to an ancient cave and dip her in water. While Constance is in labor, a special spider injects its venom into her system, saving Cassie from dying. Constance dies after giving birth, but before she does, a spider person promises Constance that he will be there for Cassie when she decides to return to Peru for answers to her questions. That does not sound real. Am I getting trolled? I don't think so, because I found the same information elsewhere, but that just doesn't sound like something a human writer could put into a movie made by a major studio without being out of his mind. You know how I know? Because it feels like this is going to make me lose my mind. And this isn't the only thing. What really set me on this crusade was seeing this meme on Twitter. All of these events happen in Madam Web except one. Can you guess which is the lie? 1. Madam Web is born in a cave in Peru with the help of magic spider people. Well, this is one of the ones I've mentioned already, and apparently it's real, despite my better judgment as a human being, so this one gets passed. 2. The 3 spider women never get powers and are only seen in costumes during dream sequences. There's no way that one can be true, right? Like, I saw the advertisements of them in their costumes. And also, what would they do in the movie if they don't have their powers? How could a movie studio produce a superhero movie about superheroes who don't even get their powers in the movie? Wouldn't that make it not a superhero movie? We might as well see a movie about Fred, a random citizen who had his car destroyed by Hulk. What would the point be? This one can't be true. Oh, it is.
None of the superheroes even fight the bad guy. And they don't even wear a costume or anything at all until the very last scene of the movie. The only thing you get for like a superhero showdown is in Spider Guy's visions, where he sees the 3 spider women like beat him up and then toss him out of a window. And that's like a 30-second scene. After that, they never actually fight him at all.
3. Evil Spider-Man is killed by a large Pepsi sign. Now this one sounds really fake because I don't think Pepsi would want to be associated with this kind of thing, but I'm pretty sure Critical said that the bad guy does get taken out by a sign.
Until eventually the environment beats him and then he gets crushed by a giant sign. It sucks.
So I guess this one's true too? I'm dubious on the Pepsi sign though. 4. Madam Web becomes wanted for kidnapping by the NYPD. Pretty sure this was covered in the Critical video too. 5. Madam Web runs down evil Spider-Man in her car twice. This is easily the most believable one on this list so far. 6. Peter Parker is born but not named. We covered this one already, it's true, so the next one must be the fake one, right? 7. Madam Web inexplicably splits into 3 ghost-like copies of herself near the end of the movie. Yeah, it makes sense that one is fake. I'm pretty sure Madam Web didn't have that power in the cartoon. Wait, it's real? What? Wait, so they were all true? Hopefully you guys understand more now, why I think this film is a cryptid or an SCP or something. I'm convinced that it doesn't exist. My mortal mind cannot conceive of a series of events that would lead to something like this being made. Part of me really wants to go see the movie just to understand what exactly happens, to try to figure out what the filmmakers were thinking. But the other part of me knows that this film's reviews are so low and so bad that there's no way I will have as much enjoyment of the movie after I see it. So for now, I think I'm gonna let this one live in my mind. Kind of like Morbius, which I also never bothered to see, which was kind of like the predecessor to this film. Morbius walked so Madam Web could run, and it looks like Madam Web is on track to do just as bad, if not worse than Morbius at the box office, given the numbers that I've seen. I really don't understand how Sony could do something like this again. They already tried the badly written meme movie once, but to try it again? Just why? To be honest, they did improve, because the spoiler plot points I've seen have made me interested in the movie, but at the same time, they've given me existential dread. Remember that scene in Spy Kids 2, where the scientist guy, for no real reason, said, "Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear of what he's created?" Because that's how Madam Web makes me feel. Now, this was a bit different from my usual videos, so thanks for sticking with it. I like to try stuff like this every once in a while to see if any of it sticks. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching all the way till the end. Have a great day, and God bless you.